very temperamental. Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. May I have your attention, please? All quiet, please. Thank you. Go ahead, have your earplugs out and your... Karen's like, can I listen to music? No, you got to listen to me, both of them. I know. Usually that's the case. People just have them in and they're not necessarily listening. Yeah, that's the case. Go ahead and have your notes out. We're going to be continuing with World War I. Yeah. And... yeah, and we've actually we're going to be getting closer and closer to wrapping it up. This is always, I've probably shared this with you guys before, the way things are set up, it tends to reduce the amount of time that I am actually able to instruct. Some of the things, like occasionally there'll be some videos, a little bit less in this portion of the IB course for history. And so we're ending up we're not getting as far as would be compared to, say, like last year or previous years. So I may be like putting off the Mexican Revolutionary unit. It's a small unit. It's an extra paper 3 unit so that we can stay on track on the main bulk of the history. So we'll go right from the end of World War I to the period between World War I and World War II. So you guys, we're staying on track. You guys are actually in really good situation as far as your IA. Right, because you're going to be handing me something good printed out on Friday of next week. And when you come in on Monday,
Friday's for blue. Monday's
yeah.
Friday, yeah.
Next Monday, come in here with something. In fact, I'm curious. I'd like you guys to have this part taken care of as far as who is going to. Keep in mind, Mia hopefully will be here on the Monday as well. And home students, I'll send a message out to you. You guys need to arrange, I think there's 3, need to arrange to have somebody to peer review, take the opportunity to peer review. So we get 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So some of you guys, it might be like you exchange it among 3 of you. Actually, I'm curious, who's going to be doing, I'm going to put you on the spot right now. Who's going to do your peer review in here? Ask somebody. Okay, there we go. Who's going to do yours?
I don't know.
Okay, so we got these 2. Oh, that was easy. Who's going to do yours? Okay, there you go. Who's going to do yours?
We're all very good.
Okay. Who's going to do yours? Okay. And if Mia comes in, then we'll just have Mia be part of like one of the duos and then exchange it amongst yourselves. No, not today. No. So when you come in on Monday of next week, here's what you need. Something physical to hand off to somebody so that they can peer review it and write down on it and so forth. Or like an electronic file that they can look at it and then take notes and then hand you the notes and so forth. Some questions, somebody had a good question, and it was the question in my mind, how much time we're going to spend in class period on this? Well, it depends on how much actual really good peer review we get. If we have, and this is possible, and I hope it's not the case because that would be very upsetting, if we have a whole bunch of people come in and they haven't done jack squat on their IA by that point, then there really is nothing to peer review. And so we won't waste the time. We'll just go straight to the notes. And that would be really putting a lot of pressure on you to get in a really good draft by that Friday. You really want to have a lot of time and effort and production put in by Monday of next week. Okay? Because otherwise, you hand it off to somebody, they're going to look at it and go, you haven't hardly written anything. How can I peer review like hardly written anything stuff? Yeah, so, I mean, I'm actually taking part of the very precious time that we have in class, because I already mentioned to you, we're having to like reduce certain things. No big deal in 12th grade because IB has already said they're reducing the size of the IB history exam. Yay for IB, they recognize the challenges, and hopefully they'll continue to recognize that because those challenges have impacted the junior year as well, what you guys are in, as far as what their exam's going to look like at the end of your senior year. But I don't know that yet. So that's why I really want you to take this very seriously. I know, and I've anticipated, you always get a lot of homework dropped on you without a lot of notice. And I can predict exactly what classes those come in, okay? That's why I give you, when did I train you on this? Like September? When did we have, I mean, some of you guys I had my first meetings with, and then there were some like as we went along, but that's been at least a month and a half, 2 months or so. Since we had the meeting and came up with your topic and question, no, it hasn't been 3 days ago. No. So you want to take it very seriously, that part, because if you do a really good draft and get, consequently, a really good grade out of 100 points toward your semester grade, that's also going to put you in an awesome position for next semester. Because how much is the paper going to be worth next semester? 100 points. I'll raise the bar, of course, because I will expect more for your final draft due in May. But if you do a really, really good job, I don't have to give you as many corrections, and you don't have to spend as much time on it next semester. It's like a good investment for you, okay? So I've set it up that way to work for your benefit. Not knowing exactly what has been loaded up on top of your thing, your plate, right? I can anticipate it, and I hear a little bit of kind of what's going on, and I'm not surprised. That's why, it's kind of like, here's a warning from an old person. This is something that's going to be in your future. Be prepared. Watch out for it. The thing that I told you is you're going to have a bunch of stuff. Oh, and also, by the way, you are having finals at the end of next week, or next week in what classes? Math? Science? Spanish, I think. So I've heard, maybe. Anyway, so you'll be wanting to get ready for those. Okay? And in here, one last quiz. It's on Thursday. Zen. Okay? And actually, if you watch, I already put it on the crash course. It's like, 13 minutes or so. John Green, his crash course videos actually on U.S. history, World War I, has a nice little overlap with the stuff that's in the Zen chapter. The Zen chapter focuses a lot on U.S., and so actually, if you read the Zen chapter, it didn't hurt as far as preparing for chapter 31. There's lots of nice overlaps, okay? And students over the years have given me lots of links to all kinds of really interesting things having to do with World War I, okay? Including some really cool Lego videos. And the 1917. We should put that one on there too, because I really like that one. Have you guys ever seen the movie 1917? Yes, which is like a production amazement. Yeah, following, I won't give it all away, but it starts following two soldiers on a mission through no man's land, and it takes them on a continual sequence, which is, it's amazing. So anyway, questions about stuff coming up? All right, let's go ahead and do the pledge. Okay, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Okay. And there is some announcements. I did. It was awesome. Yeah, I share with my kids who can really appreciate some of the meanings and so forth, the subliminal meanings and everything. Yeah, no, I thought that was hilarious. Yeah, especially the Karens on the attack, yeah. So here we go. We got some announcements. Hats off to you guys. And anybody student council in here? Student council did a really nice job decorating. Makes it feel very festive. And so it's very nice. Did they bump your head? Oh, I'm sorry. Sue them. Just kidding. Now they'll make you pay court costs for bringing a frivolous lawsuit. All right, here we go. Communications Club dedicated to announcements and communicating events. Looking for people who play for North Star sports or are highly involved with school events. If interested, simply RSVP NSA at northstarcharter.org with your name, grade, and color, blue or green. Here is Lady Huskies' first game. First game coming up against Victory Charter. Woohoo! I recognize somebody in there. That's you, isn't it?
Yes.
It's like I'm trying to recognize all the different. I'm like, I think I know who that is. There's Abby. Who else is in there? Is that Mia right there? Okay. Is that Chloe? No, okay. That's that Maisie? Okay, now I'm really messing up because I don't recognize all of them. Anyway, so you guys had a win on your first game?
I don't.
Did you already play a first game?
No, our first game is on Thursday.
Right, because that's what it says, first game, right? I thought that you guys had there was some other, maybe it was a practice. Or it was the guys. No, the guys haven't started yet, have they? You had 2 games already? I thought the girls always start before the guys.
Yeah, we're supposed to.
But it's weird year, yeah.
We didn't
Okay.
have any.
How are the guys doing so far? 1-1, okay, this is good. And hopefully, I know the Central District Health is still looking at the stuff, and I don't know how that's going to impact sports. It didn't last for the fall sports, so they were able to do volleyball and stuff, but keep a close eye on that. Go Huskies, stay healthy. All right. And, yeah, but don't show up at the game, right? Or should they?
Don't show up to the game, we won't let you in.
Okay.
But you can watch, I think we'll put it on Instagram Live.
Okay, that's cool.
Um,
I don't know, it's kind of messed up because in volleyball, it seemed like one of the visiting teams completely took over our gym, which is not very fair. We're like, so much for home court advantage. Anyway, all right, skip middle school, secondary. I don't know about this. I really like the cause, but I haven't agreed necessarily because I like drinking eggnog. I don't know about wearing it, but I mean, the cause is really good. Okay? I don't know. Look around and I'll be interested to see how many of your teachers in their classroom have a jar to put money in. The one with the most will be eggnog. $100, that's it, to get your teacher eggnog? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I saw the thing that's for Ronald McDonald House, which is really awesome cause and so forth. But I'm like, give me a pig to kiss or something like that. I don't know. So anyway, really, it'll cost you more than $100 though, pal. A lot more than $100. And I need a consent form signed by the pig. We're not going to have, me too, oink oink. We're not going to get into that problem. Okay, only consenting. All right. 10 days of Christmas. Wednesday, Thursday, ugly sweater day. That's a lovely sweater, actually. I like that. That is not ugly. So if you guys bring in really ugly stuff in here on Thursday.
I have one.
You do? Okay, yeah. I don't know, sweaters are cool, but sometimes they're really, really warm. Anyway, Candy Graham, check your emails for a Google form, $1 per candy. You can send it to teachers. That's nice. Chocolate. I like chocolate better than candy canes. Deliver on December 17th or 18th during 6th period. 20-word personal note if you want to include it. Snow team. Got no members from, we got no from high school. Wow. So you did it? Oh, so you paid the penalty. I guess. I guess. Anyway, so there it is. Mrs. Stouffer is doing it for the 6th grade. She's 6th grade. Yeah, can you guys read that? The new 6th grade teacher. Yeah. Scavenger hunt. Present is great. It's nice to also get a Christmas clue. I don't know what that is. I don't get that. I don't know. Okay. Anyway, who knows what that is? Any other announcements? That took a while. Good grief. All right, and we don't have extra time in first period for that. Let's get right to it, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, where we last left off, the United States had finally entered into war. President Wilson had asked Congress for a declaration of war. I think I got that in your notes, right? Does this sound familiar? April 2nd, 1917. Quick recap. Sammy, what was one of the big things that happened that finally got the United States into a position of, hey, we're not going to be neutral and make a lot of money selling stuff to the British and French. We're actually going to be a full-on, war partner with the Allies.
The Germans started sinking ships again.
Okay, Germans started sinking ships again. When was that? Was it before the November 1916 election? No, it was after. Anybody? Check the date. What was the date? 1917. When in 1917? January 31st. Okay, the Sussex got them to stop sinking them, and yeah, exactly. They stopped sinking them for like what, about 8 months or so forth there. And Sammy, what was happening during the time that the Germans weren't sinking ships? I mean, let's put it this way: were ships going across the ocean to sell stuff? Yes, and sell stuff to who? And the French. So how much did the Germans benefit from their agreement not to sink ships anymore? Not that much. The only thing they really benefited from was the United States was not in the war. So they took a chance, they risked it, okay? And they knew they were going to do that, all right? And that was going to get the United States upset, particularly those on the eastern seaboard that are involved in shipping and so forth. Okay, raise your hand if you can tell me what was the other big thing that the Germans didn't want highly publicized, but nevertheless it was. Yes? What about the Zimmerman note? Really? Was it like one student trying to pass it into the other and then the teacher caught it? Apparently, something like that. But it was coded. Not coded very well. I mean, it was like not a very good code. The British intelligence services were able to decode it, and then who did they pass it along to? Yeah, it's like, yeah, I mean, like which news agency and so forth? I think the New York Times got it. I mean, they're still around. And so, yeah, that was really bad because, again, what was the promise? Hey, Mexico, if you're stupid enough to declare war against the United States of America, we're not going to be able to help you much because we really can't transport things over across the ocean. By the way, anything we have is in short supply and we're using it ourselves. But, hey, we got your back. You know, we're there with you. Mexico said no. And all it did was really irritate the United States. That's why they were trying to keep it secret, right? And Mexico said no, but everybody found out that Germany was interested in doing that. So here we go. Wilson goes to Congress. This is very important. Write this down. This is hugely important. Things you learn at different stages in social studies stick. They're important. Garen, what does it take for the United States to declare war? Really? On a constitutional analysis, does the president need to be involved in a declaration of war? Yeah, he says, with not a great deal of conviction. What is the president's job with respect to war? Very good, commander-in-chief. That is a very critical role, okay? He is the commander-in-chief. So if you're going to be at war, you really need the president on board. But what's the other part? You need approval from Congress, okay? Make sure you have that written down. You need approval from Congress. Even last year when I was talking about how, like, I think the last time Congress officially declared war on a country was World War II. But pretty much every other time we've been involved in serious like conflict, like the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, Congress has passed a resolution supporting the United States to be involved militarily. Yeah. Whatever. You know, sometimes it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like, I'm committing, but I'm not officially committing. I'm sort of, whatever. It's just the way it is, you know. It's like, how do you declare war on like Al-Qaeda? And they're not a country. They're like a group of people that like pop up in various different places, and you're like whack-a-mole. You know, you try to get them. What?
Do you recognize the area Al-Qaeda has taken as the country of Al-Qaeda? Declare war on those.
But this is Congress. This is Congress. Congress wants to make sure that they get them all over the place, so they write it in such a way that it's like, this is what you can do, and da-da-da-da-da. Anyway, that's just the way it is. But make sure you write this down. Congress really does need to give the approval. And there are occasionally times when the president has acted without congressional approval. Usually it's sort of like, I don't know, there's bad guys there, boom, you know. What, I didn't need a congressional vote for that, you know, got them. And it's like, you know, don't make me get a congressional resolution to pick up a fly swatter. Sometimes if it's a little bit more, basically if you put boots on the ground, that's the expression, if you put soldiers into the combat area for an extended period of time, you need congressional approval. And you need money authorized to spend on that. You got that? So when it comes to military big things, President and Congress need to be together. were President and Congress together on the U.S. entry into World War I? Yes. You can write this down. There were a number of people voting against it. And after you read the Zinn chapter, you will see that there was a fair amount of opposition to the war before we entered and even after we entered. And especially after it was over. People said, wow, we lost a lot of people in that war. What was it for? Cha-ching. Money for the munitions companies. You know, there's this, Americans love conspiracy theories. I think that was why we went into the war. It was so all those big industries that make weapons and so forth could make even more money. I don't know about that, but needless to say, who carried a lot of the cost of the U.S. involvement in the war? Guys that got shot. Who made profits? You know, factories, yeah. You know, who suffered when that stuff was transported over? Well, guys in ships that went down into the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean if they happened to get sunk by German U-boats, okay? So, I mean, these are very important. Write this down as well, because this is going to be important as we go on today. Just as military policy really has to be president working with Congress, same thing on foreign policy, particularly treaties. Write it down. If a president wants to make a deal with another country, Congress really has to go along with it. Well, I'll give you an example. Let me give you an example. And some of you guys might recall this from last year, because I talked about how President Obama, along with other leaders of the world, wanted to make a deal with Iran. Remember the Iran nuclear weapons deal? The deal was going to be Iran will agree to no longer develop a nuclear weapons program. They haven't officially gotten nuclear weapons, but they were in the process of trying to develop that. President Obama wanted to make a deal with them, along with other countries. Iran signed it. President Obama signed it. Was the United States bound to the terms of that agreement? No. Unless it comes to the United States Senate, write it down. The Senate is the critical part of Congress when it comes to treaties. The president has to officially hand it to the Senate as a treaty proposal. Okay? And if the Senate passes it, boom, it's binding on our country. Critical point, even if we have another president that comes along. You got that? Otherwise, it's not binding. Now, when Obama signed it, that deal was not as popular among, Republicans in the Senate. They were saying Iran is not really going to be bound to it. The inspection process is not very good because Iran gets plenty of notice in advance of inspections. They can hide all the shenanigans and so forth that they're doing. So Obama looked and he's like, rather than send it to the Senate where they're going to defeat it, I don't want to look like a loser. I will act as though it is in effect. Well, how long was it going to be in effect? As long as his presidency was going on. And after that, it's a question as to whether or not the next president is going to continue on with that. President Trump looked at that and said, no, I don't like it, and moved on. Basically said, Iran, guess what? We're going to reimpose economic sanctions on you because we think that you're up to all kinds of shenanigans in developing nuclear weapons. Got that? Okay, and actually that made a big deal because there were a lot of international companies and they're like, I think we're going to stay away from Iran because we don't want to get sanctioned by the United States for having some connections with Iran. Keep that in mind. Here we go. Write this down. Who is going to be primarily responsible, as far as the United States is concerned, coming up with a treaty to end World War I? It's going to be Wilson. Usually you're going to have the president's people involved in writing the treaty. But who can make that treaty actually exist as binding the United States to the terms of that treaty? The Senate. Spoiler, will the treaty ending World War I, the Versailles Treaty, will it be passed by the Senate? No. You probably have read that, and I will get into the story of how that all came down, because that's a big deal. All right? It actually started, the process started when we declared war, because President Wilson said, okay, we're declaring war, and we want the world to know what it is in our involvement in the war that we're getting involved, why we're doing this. It's going to be known as the 14 points. You got this? The 14 points. This is Wilson's famous 14 points. Because, I mean, the previous year, his people had been going, hey, he kept us out of the war, he kept us out of the war. Did he promise to keep us out of the war forever and ever and ever, Garen? No, because who knows? The Germans might resume submarine warfare. They might do some stupid, sneaky thing trying to get Mexico to declare war against the United States, you know?
Oh, no.
Oh, no. So what he does, though, is he's basically saying, this is why we're going to fight the war. This is critical, the 14 points. This is why the United States is fighting the war. In fact, write this down. You ready? When Germany decides that they're going to quit, they're like, hey, Wilson's 14 points. That's why we're quitting. We want those to be in the treaty that we're going to sign to quit the war. Okay? But here's the problem. Before we even get into all the different 14 points, let me tell you, not everyone agrees with Wilson. Here's some people that don't necessarily agree with Wilson. Britain and France, do they have anything to do with the Allied victory in World War I? Yeah, they were in there longer. That's why I love that. If World War I was a bar fight, the portrayal of the United States coming in at the end, picking up a chair and hitting Germany and then going, we did it. Did the United States participate in the victory in World War I? Yes, of course. Do we get all the credit? Of course not. The British and the French, I'll go ahead and tell you, the British and the French want Germany to pay. Write that down. They want Germany to pay. Oh, yeah, we'll get into all the details and so forth. But, I mean, they're mad. They're like, man, you've been killing us. We thought this was going to be over by Christmas. It's like they're angry at the enemy for... Oh, everyone should have the foresight to make the right decision at the time that the decision is made. Yeah. So when you're tired and upset and just like that, do you make a really thoughtful, rational decision as far as how it's going to play? That's wonderful. You should be in charge of the planet Earth. So, I mean, but the British and the French are very angry. And so that will come out in some of the terms. And yeah, it's not going to be too long before people are going, did we really want to do that? Do we really want to make the Germans pay for this? And da-da-da-da-da. Because it makes them look like the victim. And they're not going to do it anyway, right? I mean, have you ever been given a punishment and you're like, I don't think they're going to be able to follow through on the terms of that punishment. That's not realistic. You know, it's like, I don't know, it's like, here's an analogy. A governor says everyone needs to like not gather into groups larger than 10 for the next several months. Sounds nice. I can understand why they're doing that. Who's going to enforce it? Who's going to enforce it? Yeah, who's going to enforce it? Are we going to rely on all our law enforcement agencies to go around knocking on doors? How many people are in your house? Okay, put that turkey leg down and get back in your car and go home. There's too many people in. Anyway, so I mean, the enforcement is going to be an issue after the treaty is signed. You're right. You're already anticipating. That's good because that is going to be a big problem. Put this down. The British and the French also. There's one thing in here where they talk about Wilson talks about self-determination, and he puts it in the context of Eastern Europe. Write that down. Eastern and Central Europe, there should be national self-determination. That's a key point in the 14 points. Write it down. National self-determination. In fact, let's talk about that. Wilson says, hey, you know, there's people out there, and they have a national identity. They kind of look at a bunch of other people and go, hey, you're part of my nation. We have common history, common heritage. We have similar language. I don't know, maybe similar religion. We should be a country, right? We're already a nation. We should be a country, right? And so if you looked at the map before World War I, if you looked at, say, Eastern Central Europe, you had Austria, Russia, and Germany. That was it. But you have all these different nations in there. So Wilson's going to say, those people should have self-determination. And lo and behold, guess what's going to happen in Eastern Europe? Lots of new nations. Poland, the Czech Republic, or Czechoslovakia, excuse me, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Finland, and so forth. You're going to have all these different ones. Well, just how far does that self-determination principle go? Because there's a lot of African and Asian people that are like, hey, we're a nation. We should be able to be independent and have our own country. And the French and the British are going, no, you guys are colonies in our empire. And if they're like, want to put it back on Wilson, Do we have any territories that would probably like to be independent? Philippines, absolutely. That's the example that jumps up the very, very first time. And don't talk about the Deep South. I mean, we already went through that. That's the 19th century. So, the other thing is, and we'll get to this one, the League of Nations. Just before I even get to the details of that, League of Nations, it's Wilson's idea, but the Republicans in Congress are not going to go along with it. Okay? So we'll look at the reasons why that actually comes through. Okay. 14 points. Let's go through. 14 points. The first 8, Russia is going to be having the government that it wants. That's going to be a train wreck. Belgium should be restored. Okay, that's cool. France should get Alsace-Lorraine back, that the Germans took it during the Franco-Prussian War. Yeah, we get the adjustment of the Italian border. There's the national self-determination for East Europe. Montenegro and Romania parts and so forth. Serbia should have an outlet to the sea, whatever. Turkey should have a say in their future. And then, of course, we're going to have Poland. These are the big ones. All right, the remaining 6 are some of the big ones for the 14 points. Freedom of the seas. I mean, that's kind of like, all right, yeah, I mean, open seas and so forth for various different countries to go here, there, and anywhere. This is kind of interesting. An end to secret treaties and negotiations. Write this one down in particular. An end to secret treaties and negotiations. There was a feeling that, like, there were too many secret treaties, and then all of a sudden somebody got into a fight, and then the entire room was obligated, due to treaty, to join into the fight. Remember that? And so there was a sense that, like, if we know what the obligations are right up on the front, then people will know not to, attack Serbia. Because then Russia, and then Britain, and then France, and then enemy. So that's one idea. Next one, establish equal and free trade. I mean, that's a very important American one. America likes to have access to as much of the world as possible, okay, so that we can trade. Next one is kind of interesting. Arms reduction. Write this down. This is very much sort of a World War I thinking. The wisdom of having fought World War I. Before World War I, all the countries were developing lots of weapons and collecting them. If you build weapons, will you use them? I don't know. It's an interesting question. Because some people say, if you build them, you will use it. Will you? If you buy a gun, will you shoot somebody with it? Really? Why not? Oh, okay. I mean, it could. It could be in self-defense and so forth. I mean, it's an interesting thing because later when we get to the Cold War, if the United States develops nuclear weapons and the Soviets develop nuclear weapons, and lots of them, will they use them? Logically. Actually, logically, they might not, because it's like if you use some of them, the other side is going to be able to, like, blow you up to kingdom come, too. So, but it's an interesting point. There's going to be efforts after World War I to, like, limit the number of weapons that are out there. See if that makes any difference. And you're going to have limitations on the Germans, and we'll see. They violate them. Self-government to Central Europe, and then the League of Nations. All right. Let's move on fairly quickly with, as far as just the United States military operations in World War I, Jack Pershing is the guy to turn to. General Black Jack Pershing. He's going to be the overall commander of the U.S. military forces. And which part of the World War I, which area are we going to be fighting mostly in? Eastern Front, Western Front? Western Front, very good. Right in there with the French and the British and Canadians and the British and French colonial peeps. So we'll be on the Western Front. So are we going to lose a lot of people on the Western Front? Yeah. I mean, we'll lose as many per battle and so forth as everybody else has up to that point. How did we hear about this guy before? Just a reminder. What was that guy? Yes, you're right. Who was the guy that led a border raid across into the United States, killed much of America, and trying to drag the United States into the Mexican revolutionary conflict? Because Mexico's Pancho Villa was the guy we were supporting, but then we're like, he's going to lose, so stop supporting him. He's like, yeah, I'll teach you to betray me, United States. So he attacked. We chased him with General Black Jack Pershing. We never caught up to him. And then World War I began, and we pulled Pershing out to lead our military forces. Okay? All right. What was the date that the Germans said, okay, we're going to quit fighting? Perfect. What year? 18. Yeah, November 11th, 1918, at 11 o'clock. Very good. That's known as Armistice Day. We celebrate it as Veterans Day. What was the date that the actual treaty was signed, that Germany agrees that the war is over? This is going to be important that you know this. That date was, let me look it up here, June 28th, 1919. Write that down. The date that Germany signs the treaty officially ending the war is June 28th, 1919. And what is the name of that treaty? The Treaty of Versailles. Okay, it's signed just outside of Paris at the Versailles Palace, right outside of Paris. Okay, Versailles. There will also be separate treaties for Austria. There'll be another one for Turkey and one for Bulgaria. Okay, the Treaty of Versailles. What is happening between the time that the fighting stops, all quiet on the Western Front, in November 1918, and the June signing of the treaty? Yeah, these guys are meeting, right? So they're figuring out and basically saying to Germany, hey, when we're done, we'll figure out what it is you're going to sign. And until then, we're not going to fight you, you're not going to fight. But what did not resume, or I should say, what was still going on that the Germans were feeling like, really, we'd really like this war to be over? Exactly. Make sure you write that down. I should have analogized it as the British have still got their foot on the throat of Germany. The blockade is still in effect. It puts pressure on them, doesn't it? I mean, it basically says, okay, you guys ready to quit? Okay, you quit. Now you're down on the ground, you've quit. All right, now let's figure out what the terms are going to be for us letting you to get back up again and start over as a new country. And you're like, that doesn't seem very fair.
The new country became not the Germany.
Yeah, I know. We're going to see that there's going to be ramifications from some of these decisions that are part of the Versailles Treaty. And you've already identified. Some of the terms are a little bit too harsh, right? Because if you get into a fight with somebody and you beat them up really bad, do you want to get into a fight with them again? If you can, but do you want them to rise up and look at you like in your face and smile and think, vengeance, vengeance, vengeance will be mine someday? Or would you rather them go to a position of like, I don't know, at least neutrality toward you and not looking for another fight? So what is the best position? What is the best course of action in order to get to that with somebody? Is the United States and Germany friends today? Did we treat them really badly after World War II? No. Is Japan and the United States friends today? Did we treat them really badly after World War II? Do you get a little bit of a link going on there? Yeah. Okay. How many of you guys have known somebody in your life that previously didn't get along with them so well, but you actually are getting along with them pretty well now? Hopefully that's the case. I mean, that's actually nice. It's better to have that direction in your life than the other direction. It's like, I don't have any more friends. They all hate me. Anyway, that would really kind of suck. So here we go. This is called the Big Four, although one of them really doesn't belong here. Haley, who doesn't belong here in the Big Four? The top leaders who are negotiating the peace treaties. Shh. Oh, come on. It's Italy. They came in. They switched sides. Anyway, so Orlando, Vittorio Orlando, Italy, were they a major contributor to the Allied success? Not really. They were mostly doing fighting against Austria, and they had their hands full with that. But anyway, there's Vittorio Orlando right here. On the far left, you have, very significantly, David Lloyd George, the elected prime minister for Britain. David Lloyd George is going to have a big say-so in how the treaty is going to play out. Does Britain want to have a big say in the treaty? Heck yeah. Did they contribute a lot to the ultimate outcome? Heck yeah. And so did Georges Clemenceau for France. Georges Clemenceau. He's going to be the major negotiator for the French. And then exactly, great mustache. Do you love that? It's like a walrus mustache. I mean, that's like awesome. Okay? Also, France, of course, is a democracy. And then right here we have President Wilson. Let's get to President Wilson. President Wilson, President of the United States. He will get on a boat and go over with his team of negotiators, And he will be in Paris for this peace conference, working on the Versailles Peace Treaty and the others for a long time. He doesn't get in a plane and fly in and fly out. He's there for quite a bit of time. A significant thing you need to know. Write this down. Whatever treaty he signs, he's going to have to get it past the United States Senate. And something happened in 1918. We have elections every 2 years, presidential elections every 4 years. Any predictions on how the next congressional election is going to go in 2022? Are the Democrats going to pick up seats in the House and Senate? Or are they likely to lose seats in the House and Senate? A typical thing. Trump won in 2016. Did the Republicans pick up seats in the House and Senate in 2018? No, they lost some. They lost. Usually, the party in the White House tends to lose in the so-called off-year elections. Okay? That's what happened. Write that down. 1918, the Democrats lost seats in Congress. Wilson's still president, but they lost seats in Congress. Why is that significant? Because the Senate was controlled by the Republicans. Write it down. The Senate that he's going to have to get his treaty through is controlled by the Republicans. Generally smart politicians who know that the opposition is strong in your country try to work with the opposition. Because if you don't work with the opposition, what might the opposition do? Oppose you. Yeah, exactly. This is the guy who Wilson probably should have had clear conversations with, and perhaps, if not directly included him as part of his negotiating team, he should have definitely sort of like had conversations with him ahead of time. This is where Wilson's personality, I don't think, helps him so much. Wilson feels as though he's right. I have really good ideas. Have you ever known somebody that way? I mean, you like him, you actually agree with him sometimes, but sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, you just, they're right. And they cannot be persuaded otherwise. That was a little bit of Wilson, and it didn't help him too much. Because other people in politics also feel as though they're right, and Henry Cabot Lodge feels like he's right about certain things too. And he's not the only one who feels this way. Here's what you need to know about Henry Cabot Lodge. Republican, Massachusetts, senator, chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. So, why is that committee important? Oh, that's the committee that the treaty is first looked at by. If it doesn't get out of that committee, it ain't going nowhere. He's the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Footnote, Idahoans have been chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee in 3 different events. Little Idaho has actually played a larger role in foreign relations issues. Yeah. William Edgar Bora, hey, we got 2 senators. Even if you're a small state, you get 2 senators. William Edgar Bora is going to be a significant Foreign Relations Committee chairman in the 1930s. Very important. They named a mountain for him and a high school and some other stuff in Idaho. Frank Church, you can see over by Aden. Frank Church, senator, Democratic senator, Bora's Republican, Democratic senator in the 1970s. He will be chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and gets along real well with my dad. And I'm like, can I be a page in the Senate? Thanks, Frank Church. He appointed me as a page in the Senate. And he's got the River of No Return Wilderness and a high school and some other things like that. Anybody know who the current chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee is? Jim Risch from Idaho, Republican, yeah. So I mean, he's very involved in those things as well. Henry Cabot Lodge, as it turns out, didn't like the League of Nations. Oh, we haven't talked about the League of Nations yet. And neither did William Edgar Bora, senator, and neither did Hiram Johnson. They're called the Irreconcilables. Ooh, the League of Nations. Time, I know. Let's pick it up on that. Let's just put this way. The difference between Wilson and the Republicans on the League of Nations issue is going to kill the Versailles Peace Treaty. It's not going to get passed by Congress. Next time, we'll give you more detail on exactly what the League of Nations is and how Wilson tried and how he ended up suffering a stroke and ended up being incapacitated for like 7 months during his presidency. That sucks. Okay. All right. Yes, we'll need to do that. League of Nations. It's like it was the United Nations before the United Nations existed.